if this is for like pure beginners, yeah, if you just want to use the Flutter knowledge you've learned so far, uh, if you've done all the SIM stuff at this point, you can make this chatbot in like a couple of days. So yeah, I mean, so also for one thing, I know that everybody kind of cheats on the homework, probably putting in the chat GPT. It's okay. Well, it's not okay. You should learn it. It's not that hard, but I don't know why you guys do it so much, but you do it. So how do you do it? You're gonna take the assignment, you're gonna hit Control A, you're gonna copy everything. Um, and then you're gonna Control C and Control V into ChatGPT, right? So you're not just gonna give ChatGPT the homework though, you have to tell it to do the homework. So you can prompt it, you tell it to do the homework, and what happens, it has morals, unlike you guys. So it actually tells you that I can't do it for you. So then you try to trick it. You'll be like, I'm not going to mention that it was my homework. I'm just going to tell it to just program it. And it works. And you do it and you submit it to me and then I grade it. And yeah. But if you if you kind of look at the structure of it, of the process you're doing here, um, it's actually really similar to this thing called retrieval augmented generation. So you guys are all actually just AI engineers secretly the entire time. Um, so what this is just the general, this is the model that this is like a high level overview of what I'm gonna be talking about today. Um, but before we get into that, why is that important? Like I was just talking with her, like ChatGPT it like doesn't really know everything. So a lot of companies and people want to supply it with their custom data, um, that so that they can use it to, I guess, cheat on their homework or something. So like for one, it doesn't know your private information. Like anything that's not published on the internet, it doesn't know. It doesn't know any. So if you ask, basically, if you had a business and you asked it like, how much money am I making this month? ChatGPT can't answer that. But if you had this kind of model, you can supply it the information to be able to do that. Um, actually, I mean, there's another limitation. Yeah, it's trained on a snapshot of information, but I think that's been changing recently. They let's check out an article. I think they Yeah, so now it can they connected it with like Bing ChatGPT. So it's able to retrieve its search results from Bing and now it can answer questions up till uh current times. But it used to not be able to do that. Um anyway, so yeah, so before we get into that, this will lead to detour. Like you're not the only cheaters here. The AI companies are also cheating constantly. Um, for one, OpenAI has been stealing data, personal data from the internet since it's basically its conception to train the entire ChatGPT. Um, and we've just been kind of trusting that it's able to hold that information securely somehow. They've done engineering to make sure it doesn't go out, but people have broken it. This was the document on article on the right. This was in 2023. It was at DEF CON. Yeah, it was at the DEF CON conference, and some guy who was there, they had a competition to see who can break it, and one guy was able to just break the chatbot and get people's credit card information because it was trained with people's credit card information. Um, so which is not good. That's pretty bad. And but but the OpenAI never really addresses that. And instead, other companies try to take from OpenAI. So their DeepSeek has been copying from OpenAI, and OpenAI has now been calling foul. They've been trying to sue DeepSeek for stealing, even though they've been stealing. And they're not the only stealers. Facebook also steals. So Facebook is training its AI based on torrented, pirated content, and Zuckerberg apparently approved all of it. So I mean, and he's also trying to just cheat the entire workforce. He apparently wants to replace all of us with AI in like 2025. And so when ChatGPT's entire workforce, like he gets on like the Joe Rogan podcast, but if you guys do it, I have to like ask Jack you or something. And I guess that's the world we're living in right now. But back to the point, this is still useful stuff to learn. It's still, I mean, for you guys, if you don't want to get replaced, this is a good thing to try to do. Um, so let's get into what it actually looks like if you were doing this with Flutter. Um, what you're gonna do, what you're gonna be storing basically your data, like the homework where you got where you got the assignment from, in a search index because you need to um, retrieve relevant documents to the prompt you're trying to answer, right? So if you're a business and you want to figure out how much money you made this month, you probably will load information about your bank expenses or Excel spreadsheets about and that kind of stuff into a document store. Um, and then when you ask it, maybe like a question, ask your model basically a question, you're probably a text box in Flutter. You press enter on the text box, it'll be like how much money did I make this month? That prompt will get sent to Pinecone. It'll search for the most relevant documents that it thinks can answer that question. So it'll look for a document that says expenses report or whatever, some chunks of document, and it'll find the most relevant documents. And the same thing as you do normally, uh, your same thing you know normally with the homework, you're just gonna put it along with the prompt in the LLM, and it's gonna try to answer that information, answer that query, and give its like an intelligent answer, I guess. Um, and just to get like a brief overview of this, before you even run the application, you have to load your content into this index, right? It's like if you're opening a, when you, after you finish a book, some guy has to go and create the whole index as to like which terms map to which pages, right? So this is that process. You can't just, or at least you shouldn't just upload entire documents as on your own, unless I guess you're using Gemini, in which case it doesn't really matter, because most LLMs have a context window, meaning that you can only put so much text in your prompt before it's not able to process the rest of the context. So that's why you chunk your information. You basically just find a way to split it. You can split it like there's a bunch of ways you can do it. Like for if you have paragraphs of text, you probably just should just split it by paragraph and you just upload those chunks. And and then after that, this is just actual code. You're gonna chunk your information, load those chunks uh with these ID and like a bunch of metadata, just where it came from. Um, and I could talk about embeddings. Is there enough time for that? Do you think I could talk more into this? Are you guys interested in how this process works? Okay, so the, so I went a little bit over the chunking process. This is basically what it kind of looks like. You're just taking text and splitting it by um, whatever delimiter you want. Um, and embeddings is yeah, embeddings is like an interesting thing. So embeddings is kind of a machine learning term. It's refers to a vector representation of your data. It's represented as like numerical values. So the reason why we do this is because by generating embeddings for your text, you can almost simulate like a semantic understanding of the text. So just to reframe that, if you were to just compare keywords, if you were to do like a simple keyword search, so if I was asking about bank information, um, if I just said how much bank information is, I don't know, how much money did I make? You might not find the words how much money did I make in your information, right? But but if you have some semantic understanding of those words that's generated through embeddings, you can start to make associations with money and making money to profits. And those profits, you might find a sheet that specifies specifically how much profits you made that month. So that's why we generate embeddings for the text. So after we make these chunks, we generate embeddings for all those texts. And those embeddings are what's getting stored into that Pinecone index that you saw right there. And so basically, if we look at it, this is a little bit messy, but just just work stay with me. There's their Flutter application, which is your actual whatever text box, text fields, and that stuff that's going to render to the screen like all the list view, right? Um, you have the prompt that you get from the user, and that prompt will get embedded and sent to Pinecone. And Pinecone is going to figure out which documents are the most relevant to that prompt that it thinks is most relevant to answering it. It's going to retrieve a bunch of chunks. Those chunks will get loaded and sent to the LLM as just a prompt, and then you get your response. So, and yeah, and what that ends up looking like, I can do a little demonstration. So, this is a little bit of a demo that I spun up. I will give you this all this code at the end of this. Um, so this demo is trained on my actual grades. So I put this is my transcript from all the years I've been at USC. It's been like 4 or 5 years. And so I'm gonna ask it a question. I'm gonna ask it a question. What grade get math 407? And yeah, it unfortunately it answered correctly. That is my actual grade. And I can ask it about a bunch of other things too about my grades, but I don't think I really want to at this point. Um and yeah, so why is this really important at the end of the day? At the end of the day, like I think for you guys, it's just good to just try this. I know like as much as AI is just going like at a super fast pace, this is not a project that's like beyond the scope of your like abilities. And I think it's a really good way to get affiliated with not only just AI development, but also just full stack in general. You kind of have to you make a front end, you're connecting to a database, and you're getting information, you're sending information back to the user. And it's not outside of the scope of your knowledge. Like all of this code, this is all just text box. This is all stuff you've already done. Text box, list view, etc. This is all stuff you just learned today. So I highly, highly recommend you guys try this out on your own and try to mess around with it. See if you can come up with a new way to use it. Maybe not just a chatbot, but like uh I don't know, maybe some sort of analysis tool. Like maybe use it to train it on like people have been trading on fashion information recently. So I have a few people I know that are trying to make fashion AI, generative AI things to help people just buy stuff faster, I guess. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna give all this information at the end, but after this lecture. But if anybody does anybody have any questions? Um, Not necessarily. So those embeddings are usually generated like independently. So what actually happens is so OpenAI has its own embedding model. This embedding model has been trained on tons of like different types of texts to try to like just train it and get a better like it's become very good at like establishing some sort of semantic understanding just through numbers and associations. So like the embeddings really, I mean, just not to get too into it, but like the embeddings are kind of like weights. I don't know if you're familiar with that at all from machine learning. So those embeddings are kind of generated based on like a weight formula. Um, and those are just at the end of the day, once you generate those embeddings, you're able to compare those to your original text and come up with some like better understanding. Does that kind of make sense? Um, yeah, I think so. That's like a that's in like the machine learning context for sure. I think I've seen a lot of people try to do that, like especially for fine-tuning models. So fine-tuning a model is it's not the same thing as this where you're this isn't even like training the model. This is just basically using the model in a different way. Fine-tuning it is when you kind of fine-tune parameters of that model to work better to your context. That's like a completely different process that's like outside of the scope of this. It's more machine learning. And yeah, I have seen people like generate synthetic data for that. And part of that is probably also using an LLM. So you could use this process to generate your data so that you could train some other model down the line. Yes.
So I guess then for those specific models like Claude or another one, the reason they're specific is the way they do the embeddings is different than the other model. Is that kind of what it means? Like for example, like Claude maybe is better at coding because the way it maps to those embeddings is different than ChatGPT because it's more fine-tuned in how it gets to those embeddings. Or is that the right understanding?
I think it's a different problem there that they have. So like the I mean the so basically like the ChatGPT model, so like the one we this is the so I'm gonna go back to the screen. This purple box is your conversation model.
Yeah.
That's ChatGPT's model to just generate text. Um, and the embedding model is a completely separate model from the ChatGPT model
Yeah.
or the conversation model. So Claude, I the code generation aspect of it is probably being done to their conversation model. So I'm not totally sure if like I think the I'm not totally sure exactly why Claude is better. It's probably a mixture of probably fine tuning. I think the models are usually um basically expected to generate certain we fine tune generally works is they're expected to generate certain results and then you fine tune the model to match those results more closely, basically, kind of retraining on itself. So it's not necessarily related to embeddings, but it could definitely be related to fine tuning.